Console online. HPG connection online. Educational module online. All systems nominal.
Note from editor Brent. Derek's track is a little tinny or echoey because there was a lot of background noise, and when getting rid of it, it caused a kerfuffle with his track, and we were unable to get it completely back, but we did work on it and got it as good as we could in the time frame we had. So that is why it is the way it is. I appreciate your patience and understanding, and enjoy the episode. Hello, class, and welcome to On the Origin of BattleMechs podcast, episode 102. Today we are talking about the Wyvern. I am your host, Brent Stewart. My co-host today is...
I'm Derek, and I'm here, and freedom remains non-negotiable.
Once again, being inhabited by the spirit of Liberty Prime.
Yeah. Yep. I'm sorry, I've been listening to a lot of NATO Wave, and it's done my Davian heart good.
That wasn't a thing I was aware of until recently, and, well, it's definitely not a thing I can escape now, so...
How I've tormented you guys with that.
To be fair, it's not actually torment, it's just not my usual gear, but it's one that I can definitely jam to sometimes, you know, when you're in the right mindset.
When you're in the right mindset, yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Anyway.
So today we are talking about the Wyvern, a 45-ton machine that was, well, it's an interesting little specialized tool, we'll say.
Yeah, it's a thing. I mean, again, I'm not as familiar with this because it's just not something I use. But looking over it, this is going to be a fun episode.
Mm-hmm. So the Wyvern was conceived as an efficient urban fighter and has always had a somewhat lackluster speed because of it. But its armor and weapons more than make up for it. At first glance, you might overlook its jump jets while not completely countering its slow speed. The jump distance of 120 meters allows the Wyvern to quickly and efficiently maneuver in dense urban centers, whether by hopping from one street to the next, or hopping behind a heavy enemy and opening up into the exposed back. Early models featured a LRM feed issue. The system would be routed directly beside the engine core, and so excessive heat buildup would cook off ammo at a higher than average rate.
It's all good.
This issue was resolved in subsequent models while using tested and true weapon system. The Wyvern designers chose the alternative system. For example, the Torchfire SRM-6. It features a top-load case-integrated system. The position of the loader allows pilots to clear a jam by executing a schlang hop, or a Shallgren hop.
Basically, you just jump and...
So sorry. Yeah, you jump up straight at...
Yeah,
up
and it'll
down.
basically just, like, shake the round loose, essentially. Which is kind of funny that you're doing this with, like, essentially anti-armor missiles. So, the only thing I would be afraid of doing something like that is that I hit it wrong, and it primes the charge and explodes in the launcher, but...
Or somehow, like, unjams and gets back into line reversed.
Yeah, well, then it won't launch, and then all you did was jam the tube, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, but it's, I guess a little bit of catharsis levity for dark humor, like the idea of this 45-ton mech jumping up and down to clear an internal jam.
That is actually fairly amusing to think about. Like I'm picturing it right now, looking at the art, and being like, this thing just jumping up and down, being like, please clear, clear, clear. And then some guy just watching it being like, fire. Could you imagine, like, facing down a Wyvern and then it just starts jumping up and down?
Oh, the AI broke.
I'm picturing that now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But this machine also excels in broken terrain, but due to its relatively low ground speed, it is a machine that is underwhelming on an open battlefield. Another feature of the Wyvern is that it is sold as a unit for crowd control, giving it a stigma that many pilots wish to avoid, as no mech warrior wants to be seen as a person whose job it is to fight unarmed civilians.
I mean, unless you're the Greenhaven Gestapo.
I mean, they're a unique exception, we'll say.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you can't say no mech warrior.
Most mech warriors?
There you go.
Scratches out asterisk most. The Wyvern 2C, after Operation Klondike, 2 decades after, in fact, Clan Burrock found a brine cache on a Pentagon world that was intact. After defending their claim to it from the other clans, they took their prize, and instead of disseminating its stock, they took a significant portion of it, and specifically the Wyvern replacement parts and Wyvern chassis, and converted the cache facility into a factory to produce Wyvern 2Cs. This machine has remained in production since the factory's creation, and most clans have some number of models in their second line or garrison units. Clan Star Adder controls the factory due to Clan Burrock being absorbed by them, meaning the new information and models about the 2C are withheld from us due to the fact that the homeworld clans are still under communication interdiction.
They don't like us in our sphere types.
No, they return to sender, address unknown.
Pretty much.
No such number, no such phone.
Yeah, they're blocking our calls.
Mm-hmm. So the Wyvern has a design quirk of Rugged 1, and the Wyvern 2C has protected actuators. So our first model today is the WVE-5N, seen in 2660. It's got a movement profile of 464. It's got a LRM-10 in the center torso, an SRM-6 in the right torso, a large laser, and 2 small lasers in the right arm. It's got 12 single heat sinks. It's got endo steel, and it's got case in the left torso for that ton of LRM ammo, and case in the right torso for that SRM ammo. And it is a very solid urban fighter. I mean, you could move some of the endo steel around and theoretically get rid of one of the cases by swapping all the ammo into one bin, sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess as an urban fighter, the only questionable thing on this is that LRM-10, it just doesn't make sense with what it's designed to do. Because,
You're right, and I'm not disagreeing, but it needs something else other than the large laser to go at range.
Fair.
And given the era, there's not a whole lot of options other than LRM-10.
Yeah, good point. Honestly, I think I would have tried to stick with an energy armament, so take that off of it, put on I'm trying to look at tonnage really quick, mass. Yeah, because you could easily fit another large laser on there. You're gonna bump your heat up. That's kind of the only really big issue. But then you do have space to put an additional heat sink. But even then, you're still.
But it's a single.
Yeah, you're not really getting much. I don't know. It's just a thought. I was just kind of looking at it.
I mean, the first Wyvern is a hot boy, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
See the lore quirk about the LRM reloads cooking off, right?
Yeah, true. I don't know. I think it would be, it would stop your LRMs from cooking off and killing you at least. Oof.
They can't cook off if you don't have them.
Yeah, except the SRMs can cook off.
True.
I don't know. Again, that's just me kind of throwing out a thought.
I see where you're going. Don't get me wrong.
But otherwise, I think it's pretty solid.
I mean, it's an entry-level model with endo steel.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing why I could see it having that LRM is you're at the edge of a city. As people are coming in, you can engage them, kind of hop around between buildings. But it's once you get into that urban environment, I feel like you just basically have an extremely useless weapon system.
The only time it would be useful in a dense urban center is when you're shooting down, a thoroughway, because you're in the intersection, which is not somewhere you want to stand for a long time.
Yeah, no, that's kind of my thought too. Is you're basically in on a major boulevard or something like that. Think trying to think of a major city that I can think of with that. Think Central Park, I guess. Something like that, I could see that's where it would come in handy.
Yeah, any main street that has, say, 4-lane traffic on each direction.
But even then, if you're in some of the smaller cities that you're going to find in the BattleTech universe, it's not a great weapon system to have. It just doesn't help you.
Yeah.
Even because I live in Seoul, so me thinking about streets here in Seoul, there is nothing, because a lot of streets are not just straight lines. They're very windy.
Well, remember, BattleTech specifically says certain streets are reinforced because, of course, mechs will just destroy, any sort of pavement or asphalt and just, bad times.
Yeah, I'm just thinking more in terms of just space. not necessarily what they would destroy. I know we're kind of fixated on this right now, but I just kind of want to talk this as just,
And this applies to all of the models, because they're all
Yeah.
in this vein. So, it's, a little bit of a follow-up to the general discussion. We're just talking about the first model,
Yeah, fair. My big concern with it just is you just have a weapon system that's honestly taking up space that isn't that effective once you get into a dense urban environment.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're like shooting over buildings, but even that's hard in a city because you have to be at the right angles. I don't know. Just something to think about, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, this guy's got a battle value of 1089 and a point value of 27. Definitely kind of a bracket firer with the 12 single heat sinks, but an interesting first note.
Yeah.
In the same year, we have the 5NB, so 2660. We get the Royal version, which has the same movement profile of 464. Has that LRM 10 and SRM 6, the LRM 10 in the center torso, SRM 6 in the right torso. And the right arm has a large pulse laser, a medium laser, and a small laser. It's got 13 single heat sinks. It's got an XL engine and endo steel, and again, case protecting 1 ton of ammo in the left torso for the LRMs, and case protecting 1 ton of SRM ammo.
Yeah.
B for better? I don't this is exactly what you expect from a version that came out the same year as the first version came out for the Royals. Like, it's got the pulse laser, it doesn't have double heat sinks. So it's going to be a toasty boy. Yeah, like, all the complaints about heat are still valid, and LRMs even more so, because this is like less of a bracket firer with the long range of the large pulse laser being 10.
Yeah, and the fact that large pulse laser adds a lot of heat.
Yeah.
But overall, I don't know. It's not bad. For its era, it is not a bad mech. I mean, it comes out in an earlier era, so plus the fact that you're jumping around over buildings with a large pulse laser, that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give it my seal of approval, but again, the same concerns I had with the LRM 10 kind of carry on.
Yeah, that see the argument of the last model.
Yeah, I think in this one, the argument I'd have here is not even replacing that LRM 10 with a weapon system. I would take all 6 of those to give it additional heat sinks to help it out.
Wouldn't say no to that.
Yeah, that would be my biggest change with this, because you're taking out almost 7 tons, and yeah, because ammo 1 ton. That was the same one on the last one too, so you could add 2 additional heat sinks, but on this one you can add 7 additional heat sinks, which puts you at 20, and like that, because you're going down 4 heat, so yeah, that puts you're generating 18 heat. That's not including movement. I'm not good at the movement part, but yeah, it would help a lot. But again, I am not a professional. I'm just a guy looking at this being like,
Yeah, and I mean, everybody is going to try and tweak it to their own playstyle, because, we've been spoiled by the hand wavium of MechWarrior and Battletech HBS, and, it's super easy to repair and modify all that stuff. Like, it's super cheap too, and all replacement parts are everywhere, right?
No, this is definitely like they just took the last model and upgraded it slightly, essentially.
Which is funny, because when you look at the battle value, it actually goes down to 1006 and a point value of 25. And I think that's a big reason for that is because, that XL engine and case is not great combo.
It takes a lot of the structure off that the last one had, especially in Alpha Strike. This thing gets tapped in a bad way, and it's he ain't gonna be around.
Mm-hmm. But it is an interesting Royal model nonetheless.
Oh, it definitely is.
So next up we have another interesting model. We have the WVE-5UX, also known as the Wyvern City. This guy was seen in 2685. And this is a prototype. It's experimental. It's got a movement profile of 464. But it also has a supercharger, so it can go 8 when that's activated. It's got a SRM 6 in the right torso, a vehicle grenade launcher in the right torso, an SRM-6 in the left torso, and a vehicle grenade launcher in the left torso. It's got a ER large laser in the right arm. It's got endo steel. It's got a case to protect a ton of SRM ammo on each torso. So just kind of swapping that LRM for the SRM. And it's got 10 double heat sinks. So getting the double heat sinks finally, which is good. Vehicle grenade launchers. That's a little weird. They're AoE and their OS is one shot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got a long distance of 1. So they're basically
it's anti-infantry.
Yeah, like B pods or A pods before B pods are yeah.
This is your anti-infantry system. So like somebody's in a building, especially, you just pull the trigger and now they're not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming how this works is it's like multiple grenades, like a grenade rack kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's an assumption, just kind of thinking about how it might be. Is it's like a how do you put it? You know the Hedgehog mortar systems that they had from World War II for ships, like the anti-submarine. That's kind of how I'm thinking this thing works. Is it's like a Hedgehog system. You just pull the trigger and it fires a bunch of grenades, and it does not make whoever's in that building have a good day.
In fact, they have the opposite of a good day. This guy is interesting. Also, kind of like close-range in-fighter sort of weapon systems. The ER large laser incentivizes long range, but that's the only thing. Those two SRMs, those are a good punch, and so you want to get in close to use that, which is awkward because this also has a command console in the head, because this is meant to be a command unit. Because, Wyvern units, that is like Star League units that were entirely composed of Wyverns, would suffer great efficiency problems when their commanders were taken out. And so a thought process of fixing that was to get them into one with a command console so they can oversee the battle while a MechWarrior pilots for them, but kind of defeating the purpose of...
Yeah, it doesn't really increase the survivability of the guy. It just...
Yeah.
And then the weapon systems on board don't really line up with that thought process.
Yeah, like you would want to be doing the long range stuff instead, if that were the quote unquote mission profile.
Yeah, this instead goes, no, we're gonna get close, and I'm going to fight with the boys.
Mm-hmm. Which, like having a commander leading side by side his troops will, inspire morale and all of that, but there is something to be said when the higher brass disappears, it's real bad.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. It has some other design quirks of being obsolete in 2687. It's distracting, and it's a command mech. And only 4 of these were created, and they were all prototypes, and they were all scrapped in 2687, deemed too aggressive, and was visually distinct from other Wyverns, allowing the enemy to target command units. And it definitely is a Wyvern, but it definitely looks different than the other models because it's a little more armored as opposed to kind of... So the first 2 models are kind of like Gen 0 Iron Man armor, like the silver bullet sort of build.
Yeah.
Whereas the 5UX kind of looks almost like it has armor on. Or maybe like an Ultron bot from Avengers 2.
Age.
For the pop culture reference.
Age of Wyvern.
Probably would have been a better movie.
Yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed it.
It was a fine movie. It just wasn't... it's hard to compete with Avengers 1, right? Like, that's a high watermark to contend with.
Yeah, you're right. Alright, I'll give you that.
Anyway, so the art is absolutely fantastic. It looks great. It's got a big honkin' barrel for that large laser on the right arm. It looks real good, but I can definitely see why it looks distinctive enough to get picked out.
Yeah, I mean, that cockpit change to fit an additional pilot in there, it's going to be visual. Like, you're going to see that, and you're going to be like, that's a thing I should probably shoot at. Like, that's a different Wyvern than the rest of those in this, unit that's fighting me in this town.
And that's the only Wyvern that looks not like the other Wyverns.
One of these wyverns ain't like the other.
The other one of these wyverns should be targeted.
Poor Starlink Defense Force commanders.
I mean, I am a little sad that the 4 are confirmed as scrapped, because I think this would be a cool narrative hook, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was seen in 2685, as I said, and was around for 2 years, and it had a battle value of 1273 and a point value of 34. We then come to a oddity, the 5NSL, which we think was seen somewhere around 2750, because it is pulled from the Era Report 2750, and it's a reward upgrade for like a campaign track sort of thing. It is interesting. It's got a movement profile of 464. It's got a ER large laser in the right arm, 2 small lasers in the right arm, 3 streak SRM-2s in the right torso, an LRM-10 in the center torso, and a small laser in the head. It's got 10 double heat sinks, endo steel, case again protecting a ton of ammo in each the left and right torso, as is tradition. Yeah, this is interesting.
Yeah, I'm guessing, again, I'm just thinking this is probably like a one-shot.
Yeah, like this might be like someone's upgrade.
Yeah, because this, I mean, for the most part, it's carrying the armament of the... which one was it that had the ER? We literally just did it. I think it was the 5UX.
The UX.
Yeah.
The 5UX.
It's literally carrying the 5UX armament to a certain extent, with just some changes. So, might have been somebody might have been a 5UX that got changed up.
One maybe did survive. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Again, we're really not given a whole lot on this one. So basically, this one just seems like it's a one-shot. Somebody might have gotten their hands on a 5UX and started playing with it. Or it was just a prototype 5UX, or like a different variant that like maybe, I forget what company it is that builds these things. Is it like...
It's Mitrex, I think is how it's pronounced.
Maltex, I think.
Maltex, that's yeah.
I think Maltex might have just been like,
things you've only ever read.
Yeah. I think they probably were just like, let's see what we can do with this, and it might have just been another offshoot project that somebody was doing with the 5UX. They might have built like an additional chassis and just started doing stuff, messing with it, but never really got anywhere.
I mean, the 3 streak 2s are pretty spicy, and I like that for like kind of helping to balance out your heat.
Oh yeah. Oh, they are beautiful.
Yeah, like 10 double heat sinks, a bunch of SRMs, bunch of small lasers, still got that LRM-10, which is what it is. The ER large laser, this is a cool, spicy boy. It's going to be hot, but, you can fire... streak SRM-2s, or just streaks in general, are one of those things where you're like, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice, because even if I get excessively hot because everything hit, I can take a turn to cool down. They're still damaged.
Yeah, or it doesn't work and it's just like, alright, well, just move on with my life.
Exactly. So it's got a listing on Master Unit List, but no BV listed, but it is in the Megamech Labs at 1207, and it has a point value of 30. We then come to the 6N, seen in 2821. This guy goes back to the older art from a different perspective, so more tin can, but it's adorably so. It's got that movement profile of 464. It's got that LRM-10 in the center torso, the SRM-6 in the right torso, a large laser in the right arm, and 2 small lasers in the right arm. It's got 10 single heat sinks and no endo steel. So this is the downgrade. It also doesn't have case.
Yep.
So it is... it's Succession era, stripped down, what can we still make?
Yeah, it's basically a 5N that's just less of the advanced cool things in it. For the most part, like I was just actually looking over its Sarna entry really quick, just to kind of make sure, because I looked at the mech and I'm like, what's the difference? And it's like, okay, it kind of explained it to me. The thing that does is you lose a ton of armor.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That's a real ouchie there, bro.
It is. We do get a slightly better angle on the machine, or between the two arts. We can see it It's interesting how like the right pecs are kind of the SRM shutters, and the instead of having a 6-pack, he's got the LRM 10-pack, and then he's just got kind of this weapon system over on the right arm gauntlet with them 2 hams.
Throw some hams.
Them meaty iron hams. Yeah, so Succession War era Wyvern. It is what it is.
Pretty much, yeah.
Battle value of 1,005, point value of 27. I mean, it could be hurting more, but it's still not great. So then we come to the Wyvern 2C from the clans, particularly Burok, at this point in time. It's got the movement profile of 464. It's got a flamer and an LRM 10 in the center torso. It's got an SRM 6 in the right torso, 2 machine guns in the left torso, 1 ER large laser, 2 ER small lasers, and 2 ER medium lasers. The medium lasers are in the left arm, and the large and the small are in the right arm. It's got 12 double heat sinks. It's got 2 tons of ammo for the LRM in the left torso, and a ton of ammo for the machine guns, both protected by integrated case, and 2 tons of ammo for the SRM-6 in the right torso. It also has different art.
Yeah, I mean it's basically gotten all the clan love that you can ever hope for. But my goodness, is it hot! That's 37 heat, man. But the amount of sadness that you're creating though when you pull the trigger. She's armed to the teeth. I
mean, the trick is,
and she's heavily armored.
The flamer is tapped right into the core, so you're just venting that excess heat. That's how that works, right?
Yeah. I don't know, maybe.
I mean, I do like that you can... So you've got 2 tons of SRM ammo. You're probably not going to need it for just a straight-up fight. So you could switch 1 out for Infernos, which is pretty spicy.
Oh, yeah. You got 2 tons of LRM, which is just like... You could do the same thing. You can have long-range Infernos, short-range Infernos.
Yeah, it's neat. It's interesting. It's clan. It definitely looks a little different. More kind of in line with the UX. And it's interesting the design quirks are protected actuators when the art from above, it looks like those shoulder actuators are quite exposed.
Yeah, it looks pretty, yeah. But, okay, Battletech.
I do like how it has kind of this little beam thing sticking out its back, which I'm assuming is for, like, the jump jets and such.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But, like, this thing is heavily armed. It's ridiculous how many weapons have been shoved onto it. And it still has decent armor.
And it has more armor. Yeah, and it's got 24 heat sinks, so if you're bracket firing, you won't overheat. If you're opening up with everything, you're probably having a bad time, but someone else is as well. It's an interesting clan anti-infantry unit. You can see why it sticks around in the second line, because I would not want to face this down in a street. This would be terrifying. Especially if I'm not armed or armored. I'm just got like a protest sign or something.
Think about it being like a Lyran infantryman or a Rasselhog or any of that, where your army, your ground troops are not heavily armored like the clans.
They squishy.
Yeah, come around with you and your platoon, even in APCs, and this thing's waiting for you. It's gonna be a bad time. Especially, like, I thought the one with the vehicular grenade launchers was bad, because I was just thinking about that. I was like, those grenades could be airburst grenades. So they detonate and just slaughter whatever's below it. But, like, this thing is just, it is gonna go hunt for infantry and make everyone miserable. It's gonna go out of its way to make people have a bad day.
Well, it's got a battle value of 1624 and a point value of 34, so definitely paying for that clan tech, because it gets expensive. It gets a more than 50% increase in price tag, and it's got a point value of 34. So next up we have the Wyvern 9N in 3052, all the way up to the Clan Invasion era. It's got a movement profile of 4-6. It's It's got that LRM-10 in the center torso, one Streak SRM-2 in the right torso, a large pulse laser in the right arm, and 2 medium pulse lasers in the right arm as well. It's got 10 double heat sinks. It's got a ton of ammo protected by a case for the LRMs in the left torso, and the ton of Streak SRM-2s in the right torso, also protected by case. It's got endo steel and a little less armor than some of its brothers, but still pretty heavily armed and armored for 45 tons.
Oh yeah, it's a nice boy. This is the clan buster, by the way. If anybody's wondering, that's what this thing was designed to do. It's designed for 2-kid, which solid, very solid. Because it doesn't even have that XL engine to undermine it structure-wise. At least I'm looking at the Alpha Strike card. For a 28-point mech that has jump capability, 8-inch move, like it's a 3 at short, 3 at medium, 1 at long. That's a steal right there, man. I like my bargains, and that there is a bargain. Yeah, I think the 9N is a solid mech, especially return to form for the Inner Sphere. I know it's a Comstar upgrade, but it still does its job. I mean, you're looking at a Streak 2, 2 medium pulses, a large pulse, and an LRM-10. Heat-wise, it's a lot better.
Assuming you just drop the LRM-10 as soon as you are within medium pulse laser range or streak range or what have you, like you're basically going to be going up and down depending on if your streaks fire, because the large pulse laser and the 2 medium pulse lasers and running makes you heat neutral.
Yeah, good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah. So, and that's even if you are running. It depends. You might not be needing to.
I mean, this guy's jump is a little bit more utility than it is actual movement, but like 4 jumping is getting close to that point where it's worthwhile, because 5 is where you break even,
yeah.
You know.
So I mean, honestly, out of all the Inner Sphere design Wyverns, I think this is probably the best one. That's in my humble opinion. It dishes out a lot of damage with the 2 mediums and 1 large pulse. Like I think you, at least in my opinion, I would hold on to those streaks, hold them until I blew through armor, and then let them fly. But otherwise, like, yeah, I would be more inclined for the LRM-10 on this one than I was for the previous models.
Mm-hmm. Well, the large pulse laser is great. The Inner Sphere version suffers from range issues because it's got a long range of 10. So
yeah, but it's offset by that LRM-10.
Yeah.
And I mean, that LRM-10 is more for just, plinking at them. Once we get into the meat and potatoes of the engagement, like, you're not using that thing. So.
Mm-hmm. So this guy's got a battle value of 1,067 and a point value of 28, and just in time for 2-kid, and if you can keep it in broken terrain, it's gonna good, sharp right hook. So in 3065, we get the 10N. It's got a movement profile of 464, got that LRM-10 in the center torso, an improved C3, and a Guardian ECM in the right torso. It's got an ERPPC and a medium pulse laser in the right arm. It's got 11 double heat sinks. It's got a ton of ammo for the LRM protected by case in the left torso. And endo steel, it's an upgrade to the 9N. It is now a C3.
Yes. I think this one actually, I don't think of this one as an urban fighter. This is a support mech for a scout lance.
Mm-hmm.
Or a light to medium lance force, like cavalry. It's not as fast, but like that ERPPC LRM-10 using C3, like, that's pretty nice. It doesn't need to move fast. It just needs to be able to, stay in the game, which I think it can.
I can see this guy skirting the edge of the city while its lance mates with the C3 also are out there giving it data to, like, shoot back in exchange for fire. Like, it's still an urban fighter, but it's going to be like, staying at the edge of the city because its speed is still not good.
Either that or it's like in a valley or mountainous terrain. It's going to be pretty good, especially sniping down valleys where it can fall back, especially using that jump to be able to get over hills.
Yeah, like where you can channel people into your field of fire.
Yeah, it has utility. That's what I'm saying. I think it has a lot more utility than some of the others because it has that C3, and it really plays into the fact that it has a longer range armament.
Yeah, the C3 makes it measured on a completely different vector now.
Yeah.
Well, this spicy boy's got a BV of 1199 and a point value of 32. We then follow that up 6 years later with the Wyvern 2C2 in 3071. It's got the same art as its Wyvern 2C1 brother, but this is real nice and spicy. This has got a movement profile of 464. It's got that ER flamer in the center torso. It has a ATM 6 in the right torso. It's got 3 light machine guns with an array in the left torso, a heavy large laser and 2 heavy small lasers in the right arm, and 2 heavy medium lasers in the left arm. It's got 12 double heat sinks. It's got 2 tons of ammo for the ATM in the left torso, and 1 ton of light machine gun ammo protected by a case in the left torso. And it's got endo steel. This is a very full boy. There are like there's like 4 empty slots. You've got 2 tons of ATM ammo to play with, so you could do 1 ton of extended range and 1 ton of high explosives. This is
chef's kiss.
Yeah, and those heavy lasers, like a smorgasbord of heavy lasers.
And plenty of things to make infantry very sad. Oh, this is beautiful. One correction, Brent. It's not ATM 6, it's ATM 9.
Oh, so do I have dyslexia? Did I read that upside down? You are right. It's ATM 9. You are absolutely correct.
It's better, Brent. It is better. It has an ATM 9.
But wait, there's 3 more.
My heart flutters at the thought of this thing. I honestly, if we have to take every Wyvern variant to see well, obviously there's only 2 2Cs, but this against the rest of its Wyvern brethren, this is the one I want to go to war with.
Mm-hmm.
This masterpiece of engineering. Actually, costless PV wise.
It does.
Than the C3 version. I mean, it loses out on some of the bonuses of C3, but like.
No, it is more expensive than the C3 before you factor in C3 unit.
Yeah. But
it is less in BV than the Wyvern 2C, and also PV. BV and PV are lower.
This thing though is honestly in my mind chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm. I mean, okay, so this is a great chassis for people to try out heavy lasers because heavy lasers are really cool, but incredibly niche and not super common, so it's hard to get a chance to get some experience with them, but they are real good, they're real strong, and I've heard that idea that they are what the clan ER large lasers should have been, stat-wise, which makes sense. And is cool and interesting. You know, like get rid of that range. Instead, it's high damage, high heat. Because that lines up with the, clan ideology. So.
Yeah, it lands with their designs a lot better. I will say this. 48 heat, 24 with your 12 double heat sinks.
So bracket fire.
You pull the trigger on this thing. But I mean, that's if you're using your ER flamer, which is 4. Your tactical missiles, which is 6. Your 2 heavy mediums is 14. Your heavy large is 18. Yeah. And your 2 smalls is 6. So again, that's if you're firing everything. But if you are going to fire your heavy large and your 2 mediums, it's going to get warm real fast. I think with those, it's definitely you want to use your advanced tacticals. You probably want to fire that first, and then if the enemy gets close, then you cycle between heavy large and heavy medium, and maybe throw in the tactical missiles occasionally. Especially with the heavy medium, I would definitely use your tactical missiles. But with the large, I think you're going to fire that by itself.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't take that heat.
Yeah.
And fire anything else on the weapon system.
I could also see you opening up with everything as something is closing, and then as soon as you're within heavy small laser range and machine gun or light machine gun range and flamer range, you basically just drop everything else for 1 turn and like kick it and open up and cool off, and hopefully it's dead because like it just probably survived 2 rounds of charging you. Like, let's be real, and took maybe a large heavy laser and 2 heavy medium lasers and some form of ATM-9, like, it's not going to be super happy.
No, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt bad. It's gonna, yeah, because that does 16 damage. Good lord. I forgot how hard they hit. The heavy large. Like, yeah, your heavy large.
It hits like a Union dropship.
Yeah, it's literally like me taking a brick and hitting somebody in the face with it when I'm trying to punch them. Like, it's not a punch, it is...
That's assault with a weapon.
Yeah, it's assault with a weapon. This isn't just firing a large laser, this is firing like somebody took a large laser and turned it up to 10.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to do a lot of damage. I think your heavy large is your knockout punch, or it's your opening punch, where you do a lot of damage really fast, and then you can kind of play a little bit more loose with your heavy small, heavy mediums, and your advanced tacticals, because you can kind of alternate them and still maintain your heat.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think this is the one that justifies the Wyvern 2C could have the design quirk just like the UX of distracting, because I could totally see this just rounding a corner, pointing that heavy large laser at something, and then it just disappears. You know, and suddenly that unit goes like, oh no.
Well, that's the other one is like, I'm thinking, you know how I was talking about the last Wyvern 2C with the, like an infantry platoon?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this rounding the corner. You've got your, you know, you got your Humvee or your APC or whatever, and your APC just evaporates, and then the machine guns and the flamer start going. Like, it's...
Like, this versus a company of vehicles, my money's on this.
Yeah, it's going to evaporate that company very quickly. Especially, like I said, like I'm looking at my my little infantry unit that I have on the table for Gen Con, and like I'm thinking about it, I'm like these armored vehicles would not survive. Like those infantry would be on their own. Like try to rapidly fire SRMs and pray that they do something to stop this thing, because it's even against light infantry firing SRM2 or shoulder launched SRM2s, they're gonna die. Like even battle armor is going to struggle against this thing.
Mm-hmm. Especially since it has the quirk of protected actuators.
Yeah, and those heavy lasers.
This thing is chef's kiss, like you said.
It's literally just gonna melt battle armor. Like that medium laser hits a squad, especially most medium/light battle armor. You're killing 2 guys a turn with this thing.
Mm-hmm. Like,
you're just making them go away, and like that squad is gonna get beat up really bad. If you're firing all your lasers, like you don't.
I mean, also if the battle armor is closing and you're like 1 or 2 hexes away, you can open up with the heavy small laser as well and the light machine guns. Like this thing is just going to chew. This will make mechs think twice about engaging it. It will make vehicles disappear and PBI.
Yeah. Well, I mean, each of those medium lasers or heavy mediums is doing 10 damage a pop.
Mm-hmm.
The smalls are doing 6. I'm on Mech Factory right now. Like, while we're on this, I just kind of want to go into it and be like, this is what it can do. Like, let's take an Elemental really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Not to go on a full
good benchmark.
sidetrack.
Elemental is a fantastic battle armor benchmark.
That's
especially since most people are going to be fielding them because, you know, Kickstarter, Clan Invasion box set.
So like your Elemental, so your standard Elemental has, I gotta remember how to read these because it's so weird. Armor factor 10 plus Trooper. Okay. Okay, so basically your medium laser wipes the dude's armor out.
Yeah. Opens him up for the machine gun, basically.
Your small just basically halves his armor, or takes away over half his armor. Then your machine gun array, let's see. Let's look at machine gun array and light machine guns, just to see the damage values they throw out. Machine gun array is... that's weird. It's saying 0 on here. Maybe I'm not as familiar with some of these weapons as like Chandler is. Chandler's a lot better with it than I am.
Yeah, this is unfortunately the episode we actually kind of would have liked to have had Chandler on because it's so much like, hey Chandler, explain the vehicle grenade launchers.
Yeah, he would have came in handy for that.
Editor Brenton again for a point of clarification. The array does 0 damage because the array ties the machine guns together. So its equipment is like a PPC capacitor. It doesn't do any of the damage. It just makes them all hit the same location, them being the machine guns. All right, thanks.
All right, let's like your flame, like your your ER Flamer is doing 2 damage a pop plus heat damage. Like, I mean,
And depending on the model, because some elementals are heat resistant.
Yeah, depending on your model, but I'm saying your base elemental, like, you're evaporating an elemental. Like, it's not fun. Like, you're making him go away. Or her, sorry. You're
making them disappear. You are deleting you are making them disappear from the battlefield. They no longer exist.
And so, but this is just one Wyvern. I honestly, if I was a clan commander, I would be running these together in a group, like as like a hunter killer, like star. Maybe like a heavy mech with them, like a great. I'm trying to think what I'd run with them, but some heavier stuff. Maybe something like a. Can't really think of anything clan-wise I would run alongside them. Could do that because I think Great Worms are clan.
Yes.
So, and that's that's another 45 tonner. Anyway, but again, I'm not as familiar with certain clan stuff as I probably should be, but I'm an Earthsphere guy.
There is a lot in the BattleTech universe, so this is why we're here, to make it more accessible, and we are also admitting that we are learning a lot as we go. Yeah,
just complete disclosure, I am a Ghost Bear Fed Sons guy with some knowledge of Free Worlds League and Lyran Commonwealth as well, but like a lot of the clan stuff, like I find new things every day, kind of thing. Like right now, I'm thinking about what I could do with a Wyvern 2C to make battle armor sad. But yeah, I would be running these in like a star with maybe 2 or 3 of these, and then 2 heavier mechs to kind of back them up in case they run into anything that's gonna give them a hard time. Even second line wise, there's some good second lines. If I was a Ghost Bear running these, I might run these with like 3 of these things and like some Kodiaks or something, like backing them up.
I could see that, yeah, because the Kodiak is another fantastic urban fighter.
Yeah, Kodiaks. That's. I'm just thinking about that. There's there's definitely some Kodiak models that would go really well with them, and I think the movement's fairly similar. It's just Kodiaks don't jump, but you're able to move together and have those Kodiaks hang back as an ambush with these things kind of playing, poking at the enemy. Lead them in, and then let the Kodiaks just do Kodiak things and rip them up. Like, I wouldn't want to play that game with these kind of mechs. I would be...
Hit the note button.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing is you're fighting... you're fighting a 45-ton Wyvern, and you're just like... Or Wyvern, and you're like, I'm not as worried about this thing. And then all of a sudden, like...
Turns to camera. I've made a horrible mistake.
Yeah. How did I get to this point? Because its big brother comes around the corner, and, Kodiak is looking like he's about to give you a fisting. Sorry, that wasn't the right phrasing.
A fisting like a piston.
Yeah, he's about to beat you senseless, and you're about to question a lot of your life decisions. I know I'm getting a little excited on this one, but it's just
it's spicy. It's spicy.
Yeah, it has a lot of utility. Even in a first line unit, it has a lot of utility. Like rolling this with like some Mad Dogs, Mad Cats, like
this would be a great first line unit for any heavy industrialized world, like any like heavily mountainous and rocky world. Like as long as it's not open plains, this thing is dangerous and should be well respected.
Yeah, there's plenty of worlds I can think of where this thing would be perfect, like Solaris as a defensive mech,
as an arena mech.
World. Oh. If I get to run a Solaris campaign, I'm taking this thing. They're like, you get to pick a 45-ton mech. I'm like, I'm taking a Wyvern 2C.
Well, if you do, at stock pilot, it's going to have a battle value of 1537 and a point value of 31, because this is a spicy boy, because it's expensive too, but still cheaper than the 2C original, as we mentioned.
Yeah, in Alpha Strike, it's actually cheaper, which is kind of nice. Alpha Strike, it's 31 points, 8 jump, but a 4 at short range, 3 at medium, 1 at long. Oof.
I don't know much about Alpha Strike, but I know enough to know that that's actually...
That's good.
Very strong. That's very strong.
And it holds up quite well. It doesn't have the structure issues that some of the other like inner sphere versions of it have.
Yeah, because you would be looking at a heavy with an XL engine to get those kinds of numbers, but then you'd be getting less structure because of the XL engine.
Yeah, I think one of the variant that had the XL engine was like a 5.2. This one's a 5.4, so it can take a bit of a beating. Anyway, moving on.
Yes. Now that we've waxed long and poetic about the Wyvern 2C2, we're going to move on to our pilot profiles.
Now that we've sung its praises long enough,
yes,
it's time to move on.
Apparently, we just really love Homeworld Clan Tech, I guess. I don't know, shrugs.
Well, no, that's Clan Wolf.
Oh, this one's Clan Wolf.
Yeah, that's Clan Wolf.
I didn't realize that. I didn't look too closely at its availability.
Yeah, it's Clan Wolf.
So that means we'll get to see it a little bit more, but bleh, Clan Wolf.
Bleh, Clan Wolf.
So, our first pilot profile is actually 4 pilots, and it's the 4 horsemen, and Derek is going to let us know about it. Or them, I should. Derek's going to let us know about this lance, we'll say.
Yes. So, imagine, dear viewer, or dear listener, I should say. You can't see me, and I can't see you.
Dear student.
Yes, dear students. Imagine, if you will, it's the Second Succession War. Nuclear bombs are raining on planets like candy. It's an interesting time period of life. Here we are on Iran, in the city of New Atlantia. And, well, the town hegemon's gone. And, we're kinda on our own now. And that Meltax, production factory that's building Wyverns and thugs has kind of, become an interesting target to many, shall we say, interested parties that would either like to A, get their hands on it, or B, ensure others do not get their hands on it.
Denial is a thing.
Yeah, it was a thing. Enter, if you will, into 2835, when a battalion of raiders that had carefully disguised their mechs to ensure that nobody knew who they were. So therefore, nobody could retaliate against their employer, shall we call them. They struck, Iran, and, destroyed the Meltax plant, and then decided to go around just burning the surrounding towns to the ground, and eventually headed towards New Atlantia. As the city, prepared itself for the Burnination by a battalion of raiders, a single lance of Wyverns appeared from nowhere. Many assumed them to be the Meltax security force remnants, suddenly intercepted the larger group less than a kilometer outside the city's outskirts. Using their jump jets to leap into the middle of the raiders' formation, these 4 Wyverns struck like a whirlwind, causing many raiders to actually just start killing each other as they desperately tried to engage the 4 mechs that just kept moving around. Enraged and humiliated at being bested by such a poorly regarded design, the raiders raced after the 4 Wyverns as the quartet fled around the city and over the nearby mountains. Breathing a sigh of relief, the citizens feared that their respite was momentary, and the raiders would eventually return after their superior numbers had allowed them to eventually triumph over this brave lance of Wyverns. 24 hours later, 8 heavily damaged raiders just suddenly reappeared. However, rather than entering the city as victors, having, destroyed that Wyvern lance, the seemingly frantic raiders desperately fled around the city, running at maximum speed towards their landing zone, lifting off with great haste. Intercepted communications between the raiders and their dropships were largely nonsensical. Speaking of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse of 4 demons in the mountains, the citizens of New Atlantia would take their words to heart, erecting a monument to their 4 unknown defenders that they called the 4 horsemen of Aria. The horsemen's legend does not end there, however, dear students. They actually reappeared after a massive earthquake, about 5 years later, hit New Atlantia, triggering massive avalanches from the nearby mountains around the city. Hundreds of civilians were trapped in their homes that had been built into the mountainside and buried under the snow. As rescuers desperately attempted to free the trapped families, the 4 horsemen reappeared. Without warning to assist, all 4 Wyverns battered, beaten with their long battle against the bandits 5 years earlier. Never communicating, the horsemen worked around the clock for 3 days, cutting and clearing rubble, until all the surviving civilians had been rescued, with only a handful of fatalities. And then it was that the 4 horsemen disappeared once more into the mountains. Lost to legend.
I do like to note that the town of, or city of New Atlanta, once they were organized enough to send out aerial surveillance, could find no trace of them. They just disappeared.
Yeah, there's nothing to be found.
But, I mean, the Wyvern, despite its slow speed, has always been very good at getting in and out of places quickly and, hiding. Another such pilot to take advantage of that was Ward Dillmore. In 3051, the Brotherhood of Randus raided the quote-unquote independent, that is to say, a pirate hub, planet of Antelos. They did this to secure a secret Starleague cache that Grand Knight Galahad Fuse had discovered. Fuse led the mission himself, and they contended with the Fuchida's Fusiliers, a unit with assault machines that overpowered the entire Brotherhood. In an attempt to crush the Brotherhood, the Fusiliers sent their assault machines into narrow sunken dry riverbeds to flank the Brotherhood forces. During the maneuver, they were ambushed by a demi-company of Wyverns that jumped in and away one at a time, faster than any of the assault machines could react. While the Fusiliers lost no machines, the unit was worn down to the point that they had to abandon their push, allowing the Brotherhood to secure the cache. Later, the Fusiliers would learn that the Brotherhood only fielded one Wyvern that day, piloted by Knight Ward Dillmore. So, if you can use the terrain and get in and out of the trenches and the gullies quick, you're going to do all right. And to round out today's episode, we have our data dive, which we are going to once again look at House Kurita and the Draconis Combine with part 6.
Yay! Maybe.
Sorry, what was that? Yay?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody needs an antagonist, right?
Yep, everybody needs a bad guy.
The greater the bad guy, the more heroic the hero.
Yeah, exactly.
When last we talked of the Draconis Combine, the reclusive and tyrannical Von Roers had been purged by Martin McAllister, replacing the Von Roers dynasty with the McAllister dynasty, but causing a succession crisis upon his death as his only child, Sirwan, was female and thus unable to ascend to the full title of coordinator. In order to maintain order, the court compromised and consented to Sirwan being named brevet coordinator until a proper successor could be found or some other way to resolve the situation was uncovered. Sirwan was raised in the Rasselhag court and received her education there until her father was victorious, and then he sent for her to join him immediately at the court of New Samarkand. She had received the finest political education in Rasselhag, would continue to receive it in New Samarkand, with Sariana attending the majority of her father's meetings. As we talked about last time, efforts had been made to find her an appropriate partner who could sit the throne, but none were found before Martin's death, necessitating a political compromise of Sirwan's position being temporary. For fear of the Rasselhag influence at court of New Samarkand and the deep-rooted misogyny of the Draconis Combine nobility would obstruct an effective and powerful person from immediately taking the position they appeared to have been born for. Soon, Warren Kurita would enter the political stage to defuse the situation. An only son of an overbearing mother and grandson of Grant Kurita, Warren had disappeared into military service to escape his mother's control, and was, as it turns out, a talented tactician that would become accomplished at working with engineering units and private contractors to accomplish much. His interest in battle mech technology is well documented, and he pushed for innovations and streamlining of the manufacturing process. For his service, he was selected to receive an award on New Samarkand. While all I have said is true, the more complete truth is that the award was tailored as an excuse/way to have Warren meet Sirwan. The award criteria was tailored to fit Warren's credentials, ensuring he would be selected, and when he and Sirwan were introduced, she quickly enraptured Warren. This poor Kuritan cousin who had only aspirations in life for being happy and staying away from the political meddling of his mother and court was now bound to the high court of the Draconis Combine. Within days, specifically May 2515, Warren and Sirwana would be married, and Warren would ascend to be the 12th coordinator of the Draconis Combine. All the while, Sirwan never left his side. She would advise him and show him the political machinations of New Samarkand, and ensure that they ruled together as a happy power couple. In February of 2516, the royal family would announce the birth of their first child, Hihiro Kurita. During the naming ceremony, a week after Hihiro's birth, Warren declared his son heir designate. Records show that the move was pushed for by Sirwan. The political gossip was that Sirwan was cooling on her husband, but many simply dismissed this as a new mother absorbed with her freshly born child. After all, this was the way of the female sex according to the Draconis Combine nobility mindset of the time. Warren continued to sit the throne and rule as coordinator, but was less on the ball and responsive. fumbled without his wife's sage advice and direction. Some in court even whispered that at times Warren would appear lethargic or confused by the situations. But his wife was consumed with being a new mother and refused to be separated from her son, even when Warren suggested that his mother come to care for her grandchild so that she, Sarah Wan, could return to advising him. She flatly refused and commanded her husband to be examined by the royal physicians. They would diagnose Warren with inexplicable depression and disorientation and attribute it to the high stress of his office. For this reason, the royal family and a minimal amount of retainers would leave court and travel to Normandy, a seaside resort city on New Samarkand. During the royal family's stay, Warren died on February 9th. The accompanying physician and his wife theorized that it was a reaction to bad shellfish. The complete and thorough autopsy, when the body was sent back to the capital, found no reason for death and listed the official reason as mysterious. Once again, the Draconis Combine Court was thrown into a leadership crisis, as the heir was a year old, and so could hardly rule on matters of state. Quickly, Sirawan moved and convinced the nobility to support her, if reluctantly, as regent, and thus the 13th coordinator of the Draconis Combine. She was quick to point out that she had more experience than anyone else at court, despite her young age, and her son being heir made the fact that she was female and regent coordinator palatable. A regent who would rule until her son was 40, but still just a regent. Sirawan would mourn the traditional year length of time for Warren, but waste no time in taking the controls of state. She would strengthen lords who were amicable to her progressive position, and subtly strip powers from lords who opposed her. Her 5 years of silently waiting and observing the royal court had paid off, as she knew who and how and with what to apply pressure to get exactly what she wants, sometimes with parties having no idea who is pulling the marionette strings. As mentioned, her education was extensive and only lacked in the military sphere. This is one of the reasons that her rule was categorized as peaceful and favored diplomacy over the military. This was likely wise, as the Draconis Combine population needed time to recover from decades of purges and needed to retool and upgrade the military hardware and train a new generation of officers on the effective use of military doctrine of battle mechs. Another hallmark of her rule was the way she favored, or favored by proxy, the ladies of the court. One of the reasons she did this was she suspected many were the true powers and worked from the shadows due to the misogynistic nature of the Combine Court. She was knowledgeable and educated on the majority of subjects, but still she surrounded herself with experts on subjects, especially subjects she lacked knowledge in. While lacking certain knowledge, she did understand people and would often control the conversation by asking leading questions and self-answering questions. For example, instead of, "When will this be done?" she would ask, "And who will be overseeing this?" Sirawan ensured that Hehiro received the finest education, ensuring he sat in on meetings, observed negotiations, and was present for every part of governance, but only permitted political science to be taught to him by her. Hehiro would learn his mother's preference for peaceful solutions and would understand the necessity for bluntness and subtlety. He would, however, inherit his father's aversion to directness and confrontation. That is to say, Hehiro would accomplish with a well-placed whisper what his mother did with an unreasonable court demand. Sirawan accepted the position of regent coordinator to safeguard her son, and in her private journal she wrote that Hehiro had to be hit in the head with a dead fish to realize that someone was plotting against him, and so she always feared for her son due to the position he would inherit. This is why she spent an additional 20 years grooming him for the role of coordinator, and would continue to advise him after his ascension. But it is also believable that Hehiro was reluctant to take the position, but we will talk more about that on the next House Kurita data dive, when Hehiro ascends to the title of coordinatorship and takes the Draconis Combine into the Star League.
The Star League.
I mean, we're getting close to the point where we can make those supercuts of the history up into the founding of the Star League that several people have been asking for, so that's cool.
That is cool, yeah.
Our sources for today are Sarna, Battletech Battlemech Manual, Master Unit List, Error Report 2750, TRO and Record Sheets 3039, TRO 3050 Update, Record Sheets 3050 Clan and Star League, TRO and Record Sheets 3060, Record Sheets 3075, TRO Experimental Gunslingers, and Sourcebook House Kurita.
Yeah, I got nothing to add.
You add with your banter and perspective.
Fair enough. Yeah, but I got nothing to add to the sources because that's
you have no sources to add. Yes,
I am the source.
This podcast is made possible by our supporters on Patreon. Link in the description. Our social media on Twitter is @OriginOfMechs. We have a community Discord, the Armory of Ouroboros. A link in the description. You can email us at ontheoriginofbattlemechs@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please leave a review on your platform of consumption, tell your friends, and share on your community platform of choice. Special thanks to my friend Treble for the intro and outro. Our Ace Pilot Patreons are John Keith III and Metal Ed. Our Field Marshal patrons are Field Marshal Stahlkater and Field Admiral Chiraneau. Class dismissed. Everybody have a great day.
Have a good one out there, and New Avalon in the new year, my friends.
Module complete. Systems standby. Would you like to load the next module?
Oh, does that make me Neo, or are we just making bad Matrix references now?
Oh, I was thinking more along the lines of Sylvester Stallone as Judge Dredd. I am the law.
I am the law.
I am the law.
And if Gideon was here, he would say, I am the lore.
I am the lore.